So my argument so far is that the capacity for virtual worlds seems to be hardwired in all humans, this ability to achieve trance-like states and the desire to communicate and recreate those states for others. But our wiring also changes depending on what we experience, what we learn. Learning changes the brain structure in real, non-trivial ways. In which case, modern virtual worlds, like what we are standing in right now, ought to be transforming our brains in profound ways. It's at this point in this kind of a talk where, in other audiences, somebody will want to say, well, hang on a moment, these are just 3D virtual worlds, they're just games, right? And they are games, but that's the important point. And Ed Castronova, who wrote Synthetic Worlds, he tells us, well, the philosopher's stone that allows the base metal of computer technology to be refined into the precious gold of immersive experience is just one thing: game. A game perspective generates a willing suspension of disbelief, without which genuine immersion is not possible. Better games mean better VR for more people, but there's no such thing as virtual reality, and there never was. There are only inherited and synthetic realities, and they are only differentiated by how they appear before our senses, either as a largely unmodified reality that has been in existence for a while, or as a fairly recent creation from the whole cloth. So what Castronova is arguing here is that there are different kinds of realities depending on the degree of immersiveness. And something is immersive to the degree that it's able to shut out the everyday. The ancient virtual world achieved this through directly manipulating the landscape by enclosing spaces or using already found enclosed spaces, by manipulating the lighting, think that flickering lamp on the cave wall, or by reserving entry to specific days of the year to take advantage of alignments with the sun. Modern virtual worlds achieve this by framing the world as a game. Because these are created worlds, then, we should be studying this. And archaeology, I would put it to you, is one of the most well-positioned disciplines for doing this. Because these are, well, let me back that statement up. Archaeology is about the human condition, through how we create and manipulate the world around us, as evidenced in material culture. So anytime a human projects something with symbolic importance, whether it's on a pot or through a computer screen, that's something that is the subject for archaeology. In which case, there is an archaeology of virtual worlds, there is an archaeology through virtual worlds, and there is an archaeology in virtual worlds. And so that's those difference in prepositions is what I want to turn to now. When we play a video game, or any type of game for that matter, we project ourselves into the game. Digital synthetic worlds are compelling because they create good enough reality, a willing suspension of disbelief. It's not my character did this, it's I did this. So this is one level of archaeology using virtual worlds, and especially archaeology geared towards the public. Archaeologists are trying to create a synthetic world for the public, a world of the past. Archaeology never discovers the past. It creates a world of the past from the traces of the past in the present. And that's an important distinction, and that's something that archaeologists forget themselves sometimes. Rome Reborn is one example of this kind of trend. Çatalhöyük on Okapi Island in Second Life is another. And shifting out of the digital for a moment, Upper Canada Village in Eastern Ontario is another example. In all of these cases, you are presented with a found world so immersive that, why yes, the past must have been like this. So that's one aspect that archaeology can engage with. What does an archaeology of virtual worlds look like? Well, in the same way that archaeologists create a world of the past by the application of accepted methodologies and academic practices, the rules, we look at how the game world is created. The rules that make the game are framed in their own kind of rhetoric, so playing the game teaches you how the game works. You discover the rules through play. So if a game or an online world presents a world of the past to you, it's doing so using an argument structured in the very code or procedures of that world, what Ian Bogost in his book Persuasive Games calls the procedural rhetoric. Now, for a long time, the excitement was all about Second Life, and I'm trying to... here we go. And Second Life bills itself as a world where anything is possible. And the creators of Second Life provide the tools to enable the users themselves to create the world around them, as embodied in an avatar. And yet, when you look at what people tend to create in Second Life, not the 10% of people who are very adept with the tools, but just the population at large, you look at as they continue to grow and people choose to spend increasing amounts of time within them, this is something that we, as builders or as academics or as interested folks, this is something that we can speak to, especially if we come at it from a humanities perspective, to understand the hidden rhetorics and the structures within them and the way they channel particular understandings of the worlds. So that's the big picture. I've been making the argument for why virtual worlds matter and why they need to be studied from an archaeological point of view. But it's also possible to subvert them, to use them and these rhetorics to enhance our teaching and learning, to enhance our public archaeology, and to understand and teach others how archaeology creates the world of the past. The thing about archaeology is that it destroys its subject matter like no other discipline. To excavate something is to consume it. It's a limited resource, and this poses the problem when we teach students to be archaeologists. It's limited. We don't really, in our heart of hearts, want to let our students make mistakes and learn from them. We hope they'll get it right the first time, that they'll have picked it up in our lectures. But if we were doing archaeology in a virtual world, if we encoded the rules of archaeology into the procedural rhetorics of the world, that would be a powerful way to fundamentally change the brains of our students and the public more generally.